Hi. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Theater Live. We are very thankful to have the American Association producing us this evening. I am Paige Oken, and I'm here with my co-host, Alison Shea.
Hi, everybody.
And for those of you who are new, let me just give you a little introduction to the theater. I started the theater as a newsletter and blog site a few months ago to just spread a little positivity and a little joy, kind of get my head straight when things were a little dark and hard going.
Yeah, back when they were dark, and now they're so much better.
They are. It's light and bright.
They are better now, I will say.
And so along the way, I asked some friends to join me and help me with some content, and the people I've asked have been incredibly generous. This week, we are talking about self-care. You hear that a lot. I kind of think it's a little overdone, but it's a really descriptive term. And this time of year in November and December, as we get into the holidays, things get a little hectic and crazy. Some of us may be missing our friends and family back in our home countries. And so we thought that we would just talk a little bit about how we can take care of ourselves so we have some energy for the holidays and so that we can take care of others and our families and our friends and we can have a good time. You know, we want to get some good rest so we can enjoy parties and feasts. And
are there going to be parties?
There are going to be parties.
Okay.
We're going to have a party. We're going to have a Zoom party. So this evening, we're going to kick things off because we do like a good party and we like to.
And we like a cocktail.
We like a cocktail. So we're going to kick off with a cocktail with Devin and Amy. So welcome. What are you guys mixing up tonight?
Good evening.
There's nothing like self-care like cocktails. I always say. Tonight we're making a Bruto Buck. And I chose this drink because it's relatively low in alcohol. The ginger beer is good for digestion. There is a lot of vitamin C, which is good for you and prevents scurvy, if that happens to be an issue. And the Bruto itself is like a Amaro, a Campari, so it has a lot of herbs and botanicals. Actually, let me go get the ice and you tell the story about the buck.
So a buck is any drink that's got ginger ale or ginger beer in it and a citrus. Probably the original, most well-known buck is the Dark and Stormy, which is Gosling's rum. And it was actually started to introduce the ginger beer that Gosling's made. It was developed by the British Navy just after World War II in Bermuda, or the Bahamas, I don't remember, one of those two. I have all the notes here. It starts with a B and it was in the Caribbean somewhere. Another famous buck is the Moscow Mule. And that was developed with Smirnoff vodka in an alcohol-fueled evening in Los Angeles, where these guys were trying to figure out how to get rid of a bunch of Smirnoff vodka that nobody wanted to drink because they thought it was a communist thing. And it became one of the most famous drinks of all time and one of the most drunk drinks of all time. So this one is a little different, has a twist to it, and I'll hand it over to Amy to tell you about it.
Okay, so the buck is this Bruto Americano. Like I said, it's very similar to Campari, but it's a lot smoother. It doesn't have that kind of rough edge that Campari has, which I do like in some drinks, because I think if you can make a Negroni with just something like this, it's too smooth. So I like the real Campari for that, that stuff. But it's very easy. I've already squeezed. I'm going to make for two, so I'm doubling the recipe, but it's an ounce of fresh lime juice, which I've already squeezed. It says an ounce of simple syrup, which I pre-made before, which is just, a cup of sugar, a cup of water, boil it, let it cool down. I do like the glass that I use to put my simple syrup because it's one that Paige made for me. It's a bespoke cocktail, and she calls it Miss Z's Two-Lane Crew. So I keep this around the house because I really like it. So I'm just going to put a splash. It's supposed to be an ounce, but I like things a little bit more on the sour side than the sweet.
That's why she married me.
Yeah. And then it's 1.5 ounces of this, so it's actually 3 ounces. So I really like these measuring cups because A, I'm terrible at measuring, and this has like a nice little thing. So most of the drinks that I do are just ounce by ounce by ounce. If I have to translate it to something that's not an ounce, I have a little bit more of a trouble.
But you could use a shot glass. That's an ounce, right?
Use a
Just
shot glass.
Okay.
I have that there for decoration, but I actually end up using this.
Turkey uses the shot glass.
So you put that in the shaker, as usual. Hand off the shaking to Devin. The reason that I like this drink while he was shaking is because it's going to come out into a really nice, festive-looking holiday drink, which I think is a nice way to kick it off. So, hands, fill the glasses with ice. I have my little mixer thing or my strainer, which I forgot, but you pour it in equal amounts using the Fever Tree ginger beer. So it's ginger beer, it's not ginger ale. The beer is much more intense. And I pretty much put a dollop in there, put a dollop in there. I'm going to use the whole thing. It's probably a little bit more than the 2 ounces the recipe calls for, but close enough.
Sounds so
And then
good.
I've done my lime slices.
Yeah.
It's groupy again.
How pretty.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I will definitely make that. We have all those fixings
Really
at home.
good.
How do you get the ginger beer? Is that harder to find than ginger ale?
Penguin Mall.
Oh, okay, great.
That's relatively easy. And what's nice too is the Bruto. I used to only be able to get it from, EC Proof, some of the specialties. This was in
Yeah.
Penguin the other
I,
week.
right.
But you could substitute, like, I don't have that, but I do have Campari and Aperol in my bar. I could substitute those. I
Yes.
get for the same idea.
It's all the same family. You might just have to adjust the amounts to your own. If you use Campari, you might want to use a little bit more of the simple sugar.
Okay.
To kind of cut the bitterness down.
What
But
if
if-
you're lazy and you don't make it with simple sugar? What's a substitute for simple sugar? Like, is there anything
use honey.
pre-made? I'm sorry, honey?
Use honey. You could just put, if you want a little bit of graininess, you could just dump some sugar in there. I personally don't mind drinks that have a little bit of grainy sugar at the
Okay.
bottom. I like, really tipping them back and having it trickle in, but yeah.
Agave syrup is another one.
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering. Agave. Okay, cool.
Why
But
are you so lazy? It's not that hard to boil water and add sugar.
I am very, very lazy. I have made
That would be my go-to, but Devin would kill me if I used, processed things.
so it's easy. You have to make simple syrup. It's basically 50%, 50%, and you just use warm water. So you have a
You don't
tea.
even have to boil it.
Yeah, you have a tea
don't even have to boil it.
caddy or something. It disappears pretty quickly.
Well, here's the thing. I have a hot water tap. Then I could do it.
You could actually do it. This is a
Put
possibility.
it in, roll it around. It's all good.
All right. And on that note of Alison being so lazy that she can't even boil water, we're going to say thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
That was delicious. Thank you. Good night. Next up, now that we're feeling very cared for with the cocktail, next up we have Stacy. Stacy is another longtime feeder friend. She's been helping me with content for the website and the newsletter. There you are.
Okay.
Hey, welcome.
Hi there.
I'm so excited to have you here.
And I'm excited to be here, but I don't know how fair it was to put my segment on after the fun cocktails, because I'm telling you how not to indulge and they're telling you how to indulge. So,
Okay.
okay,
You and I have talked about this over our healthy green salad. So I think actually you were having a salad and I might have been having a burger, and you didn't shame me. So I thought this is probably a really good topic for us. So Stacy is a nutritionist, and one of the things that I really appreciate about her approach is that you're very realistic. There's no absolutes. There's nothing is off the table, and it's all really more about strategies for making things balanced. So if I've hit the nail on the head with that.
You did. So, how to survive the holidays and how to kind of manage the balance is, a topic during this time of year that I have to address a lot. The Mayo Clinic in the US calls this the national eating, season. But remember, it's, they're only, depending on what you celebrate, they're only really 5 or 6, true holiday days. So if you want to enjoy those days, plan for them. So if pumpkin pie is your thing, or, mashed potatoes and gravy, dressings, Christmas puddings, all that kind of stuff, put them in your plan and you can have them. Because basically what that does is it kind of avoids the what the hell effect. So if you don't plan for something, you overindulge, you go, okay, well, we all have done this. I've blown it. I've got something this weekend. I've got a party tomorrow. So you know what? I'm just going to put this off, until Monday and get back on track then. And instead of like one meal that you really enjoyed, you've turned this whole thing into like a week-long regret-filled, period. So the key is just plan it. So then it's part of your plan.
So how do you do that? How would you plan? Let's say, okay, so I know, for instance, that next week I'm out 2 nights, and both of those nights I think are going to be a little boozy. So I'm probably going to eat some cheesy food, maybe have a dessert, and definitely some bubbles. So how do I work that in with everything else in my plan?
Well, first of all, the main thing I always say is do not go ravenous somewhere. Have a good protein snack before you go. So if you go ravenous, no amount of willpower is, going to stop you from overindulging. So that's the first thing. When you get there, take a smaller plate, have water in between your alcoholic drinks. That's a double bonus because you kind of slow yourself down, but you stay hydrated and you're a little less hungover the next day. So they're just ways to kind of manage.
Okay, take water.
I'm going to
drink our water now.
Yeah. Okay. So y'all just keep alternating. So the other thing that a lot of people, have problems with or over kind of worry about is you have overindulged, you didn't plan for it. You wake up the next morning, you get on the scale. Okay, first of all, don't get on the scale after you've overindulged. But if you do get on the scale, then you may see 2 kilos or 3 kilos over. And you're going, how did that happen? Well, it's not so take comfort. It's not as bad as you might think in the beginning. Now, your clothes aren't fitting great, but it's virtually impossible to gain 2 or 3 kilos in one day, in one overeating. So it's water. It's water weight.
Okay, good to know.
Come off. I mean, to give you an idea, just really simplistically speaking, it takes 7,000 calories of overeating to put on 1 kilo. Okay, so if you had 12 bottles of wine or 3 pecan pies.
Not personal.
Yeah.
In a large group of 2.
So that's an idea of what you have to do to gain that amount of weight in one night, and that's not happening.
Thank
Okay.
goodness.
Wow. And so what do you do then when you do go, okay, I've got this, the scales crept up, it does look bad. I mean, intellectually, I get it. I didn't eat 4 pecan pies and drink 3 bottles of wine myself, but I'm still looking at that number and I'm still feeling pretty crummy, and I'm probably hungover. So what do I do? How do I bounce back from that?
Okay, well, first of all, it's all about self-compassion, first of all, because if you don't forgive yourself, everybody does it. And if you don't forgive yourself, then you're stressed. A lot of people are stressed, go straight back to the kitchen. So first and foremost, it's about forgiveness of yourself. Everybody has a lapse, and so you just have to move on. Drink water. So you wake up, you're not feeling great, get hydrated. It's counterintuitive. You feel like you're holding on to water, but you need to drink water, because what you've done is you've had more carbs, more salt, higher fatty meals. So to kind of flush that out, you need to start with a big glass of water. Next thing is add a smoothie for your morning. Stay away from the cheeseburger. And so your smoothie with banana, avocado, green leafies, they've got magnesium and potassium, and that all kind of puts your system back in balance. And these things get kind of depleted with alcohol and overindulgence.
That's good. And you know what I had heard too, when you're hungover, if you have a little bit of fruit, it stimulates your liver, a little natural sugar. So sometimes when I'm, have overindulged, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. An apple is like the best thing with a big cup of coffee.
All right, so you're telling me don't do the hash browns. I'm good.
Yes, stay away from eggs.
Yeah, and then that's like that vicious cycle, right? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I've overeaten again. I feel yucky at noon, and it's just okay. So we make a plan. We don't go hungry. We drink water when we're out. We take when we're there, we are alternating water and alcohol and smaller portions. So you actually had done something for us, an article a few weeks ago about ordering in a restaurant. Like, what are some restaurant strategies?
And that's the thing. I mean, plan what you're going to do when you get there. So if at all possible. So again, it's all about balance. If you've been to 2 parties, then you need to dial it down when you go to a restaurant. So it's again all about balance. So if you know that this is a time that you need to eat on the lighter side, again, never go anywhere hungry. That's first and foremost rule for anything. But the second thing is know where you're going. Look at the menu beforehand if you can, and don't even look at the menu when you get there. So know what you're going to have and just order. I know that's, not always easy, but it is the safest way.
So we have a question. Somebody on the chat wants to know why you shouldn't eat eggs, heavy food when you're hungover. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, it's calorie laden, first of all. So you're not kind of aiding in the recovery, right? So if you want to get back on your plan, then the best thing is to eat a lighter meal. Sometimes when you start the day heavy, you kind of continue the day heavy. So just start over, have your healthy breakfast, and then that puts you on the right track for the rest of the day.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Stacey. So we are going to plan ahead. We're not going to go hungry. We're going to drink our water. When we mess up, as we inevitably will do,
we're going to forgive ourselves.
We're going to forgive ourselves. Self-compassion. Thank you so much. This is really, really helpful. I feel like I can go into November and December with a couple of tools in my box.
Yeah. Well, we've already kind of been there because I feel like we've sort of been eating like it's the holidays in quarantine this whole time. So, I mean, I think it's been this whole weird time. I'm sorry, the Q word. But I think people have been guilty, myself, of overindulging because it's been such a weird time. So good tips, like for any time, right?
Good tips for any time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stacey. Have a good, before you go, what is your big cheat? Come on, I know you do it. I know you do.
You knew that you were going to ask me that, and basically, look, it's not what you think. It goes back to you can take the girl out of the South, but you can't take the South out of the girl. So actually, I have a craft beer, a good craft beer is my indulgence. So Thanksgiving, a few craft beers while we're deep frying a turkey is kind of my guilt-free indulgence for the holiday.
You look so happy when you said deep fried turkey.
Really.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Paige. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
So, Allison,
Yes.
we're all about self-care and
Oh, it's me.
self-help.
It's our turn to talk about this.
Yeah.
Self-help. Yes. Self-help books.
So, Allison is not only my co-host, she's also the editor of Book Nook on the Theater, which I named without asking
It's
you.
cute. That's fine. I like it.
Yeah.
Book Nook.
She is an avid reader who is up to book number 130.
No, I'm in the 40s
You're in the
now.
40s?
I'm 142.
142
Yeah.
this year.
142, and none of which have been self-help books. And because I just don't like them, I just don't like them. But when I say self-help, what I mean is like this whole genre of, maybe it's not self-help, it's just self-exploration. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to just name names. And I apologize if anybody loves these people, but I can't stand Glennon Doyle, Rachel Hollis, Elizabeth Gilbert. They're these authors, and they sort of start out putting all this perfect into the world, and then their lives have exploded very messily. And I just kind of think, really, like, why am I listening to this? So I just like, it's not for me. I know it's like very popular. Maybe Brene Brown, I could give her some props for self-help, but because she's a PhD and a master's, I think she's actually qualified to give advice, but I don't know. I mean, I know like Glennon Doyle is very popular and she's been on Oprah several times and everybody loves her. I think she's the worst, so pretentious. I can't stand the way she writes. And there I said it, I'm not a fan.
So
there you go. What do you think of self-help?
yeah, I like you, I actively hate self-help books, but I don't know any of those people that you mentioned. I don't like them.
need to.
I don't need to. I don't need to. I don't like them because every time I read a self-help book, I feel bad about myself. I end up feeling like I can't do enough. I'm never going to meet these expectations, or I am looking at myself through someone else's lens and I don't like what I see, and then their book didn't help me. It just made me feel bad. So I gave up. I don't read them.
I think that's fine.
I think if I need self-help, I will call up a girlfriend and have a glass of wine and alternate it with water now.
I will have a small plate of protein-rich food and one glass of wine for water.
Exactly. 100%. No, but it doesn't work for me. But like you, I know there's a lot of people out there that do like them and read them.
No, I mean, they're super popular. And I mean, Glennon Doyle, I know I'm picking on her, but she's made a fortune basically, taking us through the messy reality of her life. And I don't know, maybe it's not self-help. I just sort of, it's not for me. Maybe it is for other people, but I do have a book tie-in.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So what did you just finish
one
reading?
of my most recent books that I just finished is an older book from 2016. And it is called You Should Have Known. And it's the basis for the new series on HBO Max, which is called The Undoing, starring Hugh Grant and Nicole Kidman. And basically, I know, and actually, it's a great cast. They look fantastic. So the basis of the book, called You Should Have Known, is written by Grace, who's a therapist. And the premise, she's about to publish this book with the same title. And her premise is that women get into these relationships, they ignore all these red flags that they should have known. And, she's sort of coming at this from a very smug place, which I think is sort of analogous to some of these other women who have written these, like, My Marriage is So Perfect books, and then they have exploded quite messily and publicly. And this is exactly what happens here. So it turns out her husband was absolutely not who she thought he was. I've only watched the first 2 episodes of The Undoing, and it's already really deviated from the book. So I think you could read the book and watch the show in parallel and not ruin either one of them. But I recommend both. My husband actually just finished this, and he really liked it. And he's watching the show with me too. So it's for men or women. Recommend both.
Okay, now I have to ask, because you've said this a couple times, that Dan reads a book after you do. Do you guys read the same books?
No. I think I can tell what he's going to like. And so if it's something that I think he's going to like, I'll really push it, because I'll say, you're really going to like this one. And he's not into he says, I like books where nothing happens and it's a lot of family talking, which is probably true. But we've married long enough that I know what he's going to like. So I will push if I really think he's going to like it. Sometimes I'm surprised and he gives up and he doesn't like it. But most of the time, I can spot what I think is, I mean, I do think some books are more geared towards women, some books are more geared towards men, some are equal, more people will both like them. I mean, I feel like he reads more history stuff than I do, but then there's some books that I think are just right down the middle that anybody would enjoy. And I think this was one of them.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. I'm just fascinated by that you all.
But you know what? Yeah, it kind of comes in spurts and waves, but yeah, it's in spurts.
All right. If you have a strong opinion about self-help books, please comment in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes. And follow my Instagram too, the Extroverted Bookworm, which I have just started thanks to you and the feeder, because they needed a place to put my my book recommendations. So thanks.
And the link to that is in the chat, Alice. Anyway, welcome to the feeder. So Amanda and Maria have a program called the Butterfly Project. And as I understand it, they're going to talk a little bit about it, but Maria is a counselor and Amanda is a fitness expert. And you can correct me in a minute. And you have melded mind, body, and spirit, which is what we do here at the feeder. So it fits so nicely into a program that is transformational. So ladies, please tell us all about the Butterfly Project.
Yeah, well, first of all, you really described it well, actually, for having not gone through the project yourself yet. But here's what I will say. So your problem, Allison, well, actually, really both your guys' problems with the self-help books, I feel like here's my issue with the self-help books. You read it, you go, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to follow all these tips, and then you close it and you put it right back on the shelf, and it goes away like it never even happened, right? The reason that we started the Butterfly Project, which is a 6-week project for women only, focusing on 4 dimensions of wellness and self-care, the reason we started that is because we want to help women make this transformational change that lasts lifelong. So we don't want you to put the book back on the shelf and be like, oh yeah, all those tips in the Butterfly Project, that's pretty awesome. No, we actually do our 6-week curriculum so that by week 6, you have all of the tools in your toolbox to maintain the changes that you've made. So we're really focused on helping women just transform for good once and for all.
Great. So Maria, you handle the mental health and well-being piece of it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it was interesting. You were talking about self-care at the beginning, and we've had, different aspects of self-care in terms of, cocktail making, reading books, all different things. So the important thing for Amanda and I, when we were putting together the Butterfly Project, was creating a definition for what is self-care. And so what we used is an acronym called PIES. Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. So we've broken down self-care into those 4 areas. And if we, the analogy that I like to use is if we look at each of those 4 areas as if they're legs on a chair, right? And if those legs are strong, then you can put a lot of weight on that chair. But if they're not strong and you put weight on it or stress on it, it collapses or it gets shaky. So when we're talking about self-care, we're talking about those 4 areas and how do we create good habits in each of those areas so that becomes the foundation for your wellness.
Paige is panicking because she just got a battery dying thing. Anyway, go ahead, Amanda. What were you going to say?
When we're talking about those 4 dimensions, those 4 legs on the chair, the very first one, physical, is obviously the one that I engage with the most on a day-to-day basis. I'm a personal trainer. I own a small business where I do personal training and nutrition. And so physical wellness in terms of how you can tell if you're physically well, right? First of all, I always say if you are moving your body in a way that makes you feel good and you're doing it more days than you're not, you're acing the game. You're acing the game. There is no one path to physical wellness. It's just movement that makes you feel good that you do more days than not. And again, ideally every day, right? We're moving our bodies. So during, these any type of movement. Yeah. I mean, there is no single best, and if you've studied exercise over time, trends come and go, right? Zumba was hot, jazzercise was hot, spinning was hot, Peloton's the new thing. To me, it doesn't matter. There are amazing, healthy people doing all sorts of crazy things, right? So I say pick the one that you enjoy, that you will do more days than not, and do it. Keep it in your purview.
Does it have to be a cardio, or can it be a yoga, Pilates, walking? You know, what
Girl,
could it be?
you are listing off all the things I love, because it does not matter. It really doesn't. You know, what we try to do in terms of encouraging physical wellness is, like I said, find something that you love, that you can do more days than not. And then also make sure that you're thinking about kind of all the major dimensions of fitness. So cardiovascular health is one, strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, and stamina. So if you can, you know, do a little bit in each of those categories, then you're good to go.
Do you mix it up like during the week? Do you do a different thing every day? Do you have like, how do you decide what you're going to do for exercise?
That's a
You
really
do
good question. And I'll tell you, you know, obviously even in my own career, I've been working in fitness for 14 years. And even in my own career, I've gone through all sorts of transitions. So I started out as a competitive triathlete. I then transitioned into marathon running exclusively. I went then really big into CrossFit for a while. I did the Bikram yoga, you know, 30 classes in 30 days and got hooked on that for a year. I mean, there's not really kind of a trend that I haven't been on, except for the dance trends, which is, you don't need to see that. Nobody needs to see that from me. But what I will say is this, for me, because I am over 35, I mean 25 anyway. So for me, weight training is an absolute backbone for my program. So I do weight train 3 times a week. I run once. I still do Bikram once a week, you know, or what I call Hot 26, because I don't pay homage to Bikram. And then I do something with my daughter and my husband at least once a week, you know, maybe a hike, maybe a swim, whatever movement that we enjoy that week.
That's great. So then you never get bored either. You're kind of always mixing it up and doing different things. Which I
Exactly. There's a lot of movements that I enjoy, so I do all of them.
That's great.
So that's the P in PIES, yeah?
Got the I, right? The intellectual self-care. And I think, you know, intellectual self-care, people think like, oh, does that mean I have to read, you know, and hey, by the way, Book Nook, okay, I love my reading and I love my books as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to, you know, get nose deep in a book, or that you've got to, you know, be familiar with all sorts of, you know, high level concepts. Intellectual wellness really just means, do you have a passion, right? Something that excites your mind and excites your soul, and are you pursuing it? Some of us, you know, Maria and I are both lucky because we get to work in our passion projects. So literally our work and our passions are aligned. So every day we're doing something intellectually stimulating. Doing something that excites your passions is what we consider intellectual wellness. So, you know, in the Butterfly Project, we encourage things like journaling, scrapbooking, vision boarding, things that kind of get you thinking. And then we allow those conversations to happen, because that, you know, interacting with those ideas with others is really how you share that intellectual wellness.
And so, yeah, I'm not the vision boarding thing, I would have to figure out another way around it. That's
well, but it just seems
hard
like,
for me.
I know, but I think it's cool that you said, you know, journaling, vision boarding, because it's really all about, I guess I think of it like sort of right brain, left brain. It's getting that creative outlet going, right? Whether that's, I don't know, drawing or whatever it is, I don't know. Maybe it is reading or whatever, something that makes you happy.
I'm just like you. I have never made a vision board like with my scissors and hands. What I literally have a board on Pinterest called Vision Board. And so that's what my vision board is.
Now who's lazy, Paige?
All right, so physical, intellectual, E.
And so E is emotional. So emotional self-care is around how do you self-regulate, right? How do you process your emotions? And for most of us, that's talking with our friends, right? You know, Paige, we're talking about like, you know, having a glass of wine with your friend, or, you know, chatting with your husband or your wife, just spending time talking about things that are happening in your life. Journaling is another great way to practice emotional self-care. Therapy, music, art, whatever it is that helps you with your emotions, to sit with them and be with them, and just to process them. So, you know, that really is the best way to work on your emotional self-care.
I'm sure people have been having a hard time processing emotions too lately. I mean, you must see such an uptick right now in people struggling with their mental health, right?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot. And that's why, you know, I think for us, you know, part of the idea behind the Butterfly Project was to look at the fact that people are struggling right now, and what's a way that we can provide some tools to help people, you know, feel a little more comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a pie. Now we want more.
It's a pie. Yeah. So the S, the S comes in with this spiritual aspect, and oftentimes, people feel like if you're not religious, then you can't be spiritual. And I think that that's a real misnomer, because spirituality doesn't have to be linked to religion. Certainly if you are religious and you go to temple or synagogue or church, prayer is a great way for you to engage in that spiritual self-care. But if you're not religious, it's about how do you find time to connect? How do you give yourself the space and the time to have that mind-body connection? So whether it's through yoga, meditation, qigong, tai chi, progressive relaxation, anything like that that gives you that time and space, that's how you can practice your spiritual self-care.
That's so interesting. A while ago, I was talking to Stacy, who was on earlier, the nutritionist, and she was talking to me about walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying that she'll go out sometimes without any headphones, no music, nothing, and just sort of let her thoughts wander. And that's one of the ways she kind of reconnects and helps her get her head straight and just sort of lets her thoughts go. And I thought it was so interesting. And I realized when she was telling me this that I process a lot when I run. I go for runs a couple times a week, and I usually don't do it with anything on. And I'm like, oh, that's actually what they're talking about. It's a way to.
Yeah, so it's, whatever you're doing that just kind of gets you in that, meditative state. So Amanda and I were talking earlier about, for me, swimming, when I'm swimming laps, people think, oh, it's so boring. Like, how can you swim? But for me, that's when, I just get into that state where I'm not thinking about anything. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. So it's really anything that gives you that sense of calm and peace.
I love this. I love the way you've defined these kind of 4 pillars of self-care, and that they kind of are interconnected. I think it seems, I hate the word holistic, but I'm going to use it.
No, I think that's right, because I was just thinking the same thing. It's a mind-body connection, right? You really can't have one without the other. So I think it was so clever of you guys to do this together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, we deliberately, I think it's really important to talk deliberately about wellness rather than health. Because I think when people think about health, they think about, is my blood pressure normal? Is my cholesterol okay? Right? I'm healthy. But the idea of wellness, right, kind of takes it to that next level where it's like, am I firing on all cylinders when it comes to my movement, my meditative health, my spiritual health? I think that's really, what the wellness term incorporates.
Getting enough sleep. Wow.
That's the biggest challenge. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe before we go, since you all were the ones that asked this question, what are a couple of things, if you could give us like 3 tips for getting enough sleep, what would they be?
Yeah. Well, if I can share one of my favorite strategies, which is the 10-3-2-1 strategy, okay, and it circles on getting better sleep. So the idea is, first of all, set a bedtime. So if your bedtime is 10 o'clock, which is the example I'm going to use, 10 hours before your bedtime, cut the caffeine. Okay, so that's the 10 in the 10-3-2-1. 10 hours before, cut the caffeine. Because studies show that even 8 hours, 7, 6, closer you get to bedtime, the more caffeine will disrupt your sleep. So 10 hours before, cut the caffeine, okay? 3 hours before, finish up your exercise. So if you're doing vigorous exercise, you got to cut that out by 7. If you're trying to get to bed by 10, that's going to allow your body to get into that cool down, shut down mode. 2 hours before bed, cut the food and alcohol. So there should be no more calories in your 2 hours. I mean, even deep fried turkey on Thanksgiving, get that out of your system 2 hours before bed, okay? So that's the 2. And then the 1, the hardest one, is screens, guys. Get the screens out.
Totally.
1 hour before bedtime. And hey, if that means that you don't know what to do with yourself and you end up going to bed an hour early, even better, right? So if it's a hard copy book, a meditation, something in your ear, that's fine, but no screens, blue lights in your face 1 hour before bed.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I know I put my phone across the room so I won't be tempted, even if I have those, like, I mean, I think too, as you get older, well, women at least, like I'm waking up a lot in the middle of the night. And so I try, at least if my phone is across the room, I won't reach for it and like pick it up and then I'm awake, but it's hard with Kindle and, everything you read on screens. But yes, if you can, I think this no screen is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, I read
me.
something recently that said blue light is bad night. And I was like,
Yeah.
ooh.
Makes sense.
I'm going to add that to my 10, 3, 2, 1, right?
Yeah, that's a good little
Okay, Maria, what's your tip for a good night's
Yeah,
sleep?
I was just going to say, I think, the other thing is, being like Amanda and I've talked a lot about designing your environment, right? Whatever the goal is that you want is creating the environment that's going to be the most, the most beneficial for you to achieve your goal. So I tell all of my clients that your bedroom has to be for sleep and sex and reading, and that's it. Right? There's no, bringing your work into bed. There's no, your bedroom has to be a place for relaxation. And that getting rid of your screens and getting rid of your, technology in your room, because it is so tempting. If your phone is right there and it buzzes in the middle of the night, or, you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to check the time. And then, oh, maybe I'll check, I'll check Instagram, or I'll check my email too while I'm at it. And, then you're up and you're going. So making sure that you're creating a really restful space for yourself to set the stage to have sleep success.
I love that. And by the way, Steve Oken, if you're listening, you didn't hear it from me. You heard it from two experts. Turn off the screen.
True.
Sorry, I needed to get the personal plug in.
No Twitter event.
Well, thank you. We have put the link to the Butterfly Project up in the chat for everybody. And I'm super excited because Amanda and Maria have written an article for the next print issue of the theater, which will be out next week. So look for that, everybody. Thank you so much. It was great having you this evening. Have a good night. So we're welcoming Catherine, who is my Pilates instructor and has been Alison's Pilates instructor. She works out of Options Pilates Studio in Singapore. She's fabulous. I love Catherine because, one, I'm 5'3", and every time I walk out of a session with her, I feel 5'10", because she stretches me out and makes me stand up taller. So I always feel great. I also love that any interaction I have with Catherine is incredibly positive. I always feel good about myself. If I walk in there and I'm having a bad day or I don't want to exercise, she has this amazing way of turning my day around and just making me feel better about myself. So I'm very happy to have you here this evening, Catherine. Thank you for joining us at this late hour. When I invited you on the show, I asked if you could help us wind down for the evening. Give us some stretches and.
I think it's normally everybody has the tension, or everybody's stressed, and they put everything here on the shoulders. And then when you bring this on the shoulders, goes straight to your neck. So one of the neck stretches, it will be excellent before you go to bed. Then you have, I will show you this one. Let's just start first the neck, the upper body. So I will try, you do the stretching for 30 seconds, or just do if you have done a workout, it's better for 30 seconds. If you just want to do the relax, you can stay in that position as long as you want. So there is one of these, it's called the upper back stretches. You can be sitting, and you can sit, let's say my left hand is called, I'm sitting on my left hand, and I'm gonna take my hand, and the middle finger is gonna be touching my ear. But you're gonna be sitting nice and tall. Remember your ribs on top of your pelvis. Now from there, you take a nice inhale through your nose, and as you exhale gently, you're gonna bring your right ear towards your shoulder. And you're gonna feel the stretching on the left side. You feel that? Try not to move anything. Take it there, gently stretch it there, and then from there, come back again. And again, take another inhale. And then from there, you just press towards your right side. And you should drop your left shoulder down. Yeah, so that's how you're gonna feel the stretching. And then from there, return. Let's change the other side. If this position, having your hand, sitting on your hand is not good, you can use the other one, that you bring the arms to the back. Now let's take the other hand, left hand, and the middle finger goes close towards your ear. And then from there, you're gonna
pull here toward the left ear, towards your left, towards the shoulder. And then you're gonna exhale there, and then from there return. So you're supposed to stay there, and again, pull gently, and you're supposed to stay there for 30 seconds. If you don't like 30 seconds, at least 3 times 10 seconds. And then from there, return, okay? The other one is this part of your body, and this also is affected. So what I normally do, I place my right hand behind here on the part of the back, here on the shoulder, the upper body. Then you're gonna bring the other arm here you're gonna rotate, twist your head 45 degrees, and you're gonna take your arm over, up and over. Then from there, you're gonna bring your nose towards your armpit, down. And the other elbow, the opposite elbow is reaching up. So you're gonna feel a nice stretching.
Oh, it's a good stretch. I know, I believe it, but my shirt is too tight.
Yeah, this is you're stretching your elevator scapularis there. Hold. Stay there. Don't forget to breathe in and out, and then return. Let's do the other side. So also the same thing. If you did not like this part, you can bring it either your hand on the back, but I think this one is excellent. You're gonna bring here. Again, you bring your head 45 degrees. Then you take your arm up and over to the back of your head. And then from there, you're gonna bring the nose towards your armpit. And you're gonna feel the stretching. My side is very tight there. I want you to inhale, exhale. And again, take another inhale through your nose. And then breathe out through your mouth. And then return. So you do 3 times 10 seconds, 10 seconds, okay? So the other problem that I see is everybody's typing, and I have many of you with this problem, your wrist. So let's keep your hands like this, and the palms are facing each other. Now you're gonna start folding from your fingers. I don't know if you can see me. You fold, fold, fold. Then from there, you're gonna squeeze hard. And then from there, you release and open it wider. And again, so you fold the fingers, go in, and then squeeze hard. And then relax and open. And then you shake, okay? So then the other problem, I see a lot of lumbar. You need to stretch your back because we are sitting, and we are always sitting like this.
Yeah.
So one of the nice, if you are sitting on the chair, just try to sit nice and tall. Always your ribs on top of your pelvis, and you place your hands on top of your knees. Now you're gonna take a nice inhale. Then as you exhale, you're gonna knock your chin down. You're gonna draw your abdominals in, and you're gonna roll back. I want you to take a nice inhale there, and try to think of bringing the ribs up to the ceiling. And then from there, you're gonna roll up again to a vertical position. Are you feeling the stretching? And again, take a nice inhale. And then from there, exhale, roll down. Now, think of coming flexion from the torso and not from your hips. I want you to pull the tummy in. And then from there, return with control. The other one, you're gonna reach your right arm here to the ceiling. Then from there, you're gonna go side bend, but relax your left shoulders and go and reach over to the west side. And then from there, return. And again, take a nice inhale there. And then from there, think of going up and over. So think of the top arm is overhead, and it's not going down, overhead. So you feel it all the way. And again, one more time. Reach this, and then go up and over.
But we do look good.
And again, return. Last one. Take a nice inhale. Reach, bring the ribs up, and go to your right side. And then return. Good?
That's
So,
great, Catherine. There are a couple in there that I love. I do all the time. I will say that the hand stretch,
Yeah.
I do that all day long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we
Not
are always typing on this. Yes.
I agree. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I feel very relaxed. I know. I feel great. Thank you. Have a good night, Catherine.
Bye.
Cheers. I was so proud of myself that I still had wine left in my glass.
You got to the whole show and you got
I did. I only drank a half a glass of wine. That is a record.
All right. Well, Alison is really impressed with herself.
I am really impressed with Paige, as always, for putting this together. So thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
And cheers to everybody.
Cheers to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you again in a couple of weeks. Visit our website, thefeeder.com, thefeederfeed.com. The link is in the chat. Check out the American Association. Thank you again for producing us this evening. Thank you to Madeline, Allie, and Joe, who were handling the tech. We really appreciate it. And most of all, thank you to the guests and the audience. We couldn't have done this without you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.